Hey, if you guys like what I'm doing, want to help out, check me out on Patreon and be sure to like and subscribe. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing the conclusion for our controller here. I'm not gonna be messing with this side, only messing with this. Now what we're actually testing today is how well these actually held up in the time that I've had them. And I'm only doing this one because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So we'll start with the carbon one. And I'm just going to see how easily these peel off. I do have to remove all this anyway because I'm working on another solution, and this is the test controller for that. Now, the other solution I'm doing is actually taking, whichever ones of these will work and mixing it into a kind of a more rubberized compound. Because these, well, except the carbon one. The carbon one's kind of soft. Okay, I guess they're about the same. But my concern was after so long, if these actually have any flex, it could actually cause it to peel off. But I don't know how easily that could happen. Now I am kind of poking at these. The edge material doesn't take too much to get off, but if I poke, and keep in mind I'm okay to damage this because this is disposable at this point. So it looks like the carbon doesn't come off too easy. Now it's hard to tell on the pad itself. I can see what I can see on my fingers, but yeah, it's not just flaking off or peeling in one big chunk. So that's actually really impressive. I'll try to hold this a little closer to the camera. But it looks like the carbon actually is really good. Now when I applied it, it looked almost like it was just getting soaked into the existing pads. But yeah, that's actually a really good sign because carbon is one of the cheap. It's not the cheapest. Nickel is actually the same cost as the carbon. They're both acrylic, and I'll actually move on to the nickel next, and we'll see which one done better. Now the nickel, nickel's just not liking me scratching it whatsoever here. I can just see little bits flying all around there. So the nickel actually came right off, but the carbon, I'm still getting bits of carbon there. So yeah, I think the carbon kind of fused with what they had on there originally, which was probably also carbon. This is why I was trying to go for a more rubberized compound, not so I could scrape it off, but see if it would just poke off. We'll do poke test on our water base here, and you can see, I think you can see that I'm trying to push it out, but keep it by the camera. It does have some flex, other than if I did poke it, and yeah, once there's a weak spot in there, and off she goes. And last up, the most expensive one, silver. Another acrylic based. Oop. And I can just see it doesn't like to be flexed at all. So over time, if this flexes or starts to warp, or you just get a little too crazy with the buttons, it will probably just pop off. So that's kind of it. That is the conclusion to the straight up painting. And we kind of have a before and after. So this side's the D-pad, but you can see the carbon. We'll poke the carbon again. Well, get my old residue off. We don't want cross-contamination. The carbon's kind of stubborn, even on this one. So it will come off if I scrape it. And let's try the water-based one here again. Didn't even get a cut in there, but a good scratch there. So it doesn't really like being painted on these little carbon pads. And of course, if I just flex it enough, it starts to flake away. So yeah, I will definitely have to test some of the compounds I've been working on, which actually uses that as a basis. It's just getting rubberized. That way we do have the flex in there, and it should bond fine. And that'll be probably the next video, unless something else comes up. And then after that, I will do a 5200 controller for the Atari, which actually inspired all this playing around. But this was just, hey, I got it laying around. If I break it, whatever, it's nothing super valuable. So all the testing done on this. Then once it's finalized, we do the actual 5200 controller. And I'm actually talking with somebody else that has one that's easily accessible, that can do some testing, just so we can get more of a professional review. Because my only experience with the 5200 was when I had to put one together, and I learned everything then, and that was a huge project. I won't get into all the details, but it was expensive and I learned a lot. But I do know membrane pads were an issue when going through all that. But that's the conclusion for this. We're done playing with the paint. Not done with this controller. There's probably going to be 2 more projects after this. One for the rubberized coat and the other I haven't really talked about. But it would make this a much better controller than it originally was or can be with just what we're playing with. And far as I know, that's about all I have scheduled for future projects. If you have any suggestions, be sure to let me know. And if you'd like to help support buying any of this stuff, definitely check out my Patreon, because some of this stuff is not cheap, guys. But if you watched an earlier video, you know I got the paints for free because I was looking to buy, and I contacted MG Chemicals and said, hey, I will review your product because I think there's a few people that might have looked at it but backed away and need to know if it actually worked for something like this. So since we're playing around with it, I will probably have some other uses for it, and I'm sure I'll pick out the one that I like the best and run out eventually and have to go order more. And hopefully, I think the nickel will work out, because the nickel's about the same price as carbon. Conductivity and resistance and all that is better, obviously, because it's a metal. The silver would have to be a special project. That's the most expensive. And then, of course, there's the water-based, if there was a special reason for me to do that. Other than I really like the color of it, I probably won't order any of those. Probably be the carbon or the nickel. The carbon so far is showing good results with mixing, but I've only been testing with the water-based and one of the chemical-based. So we'll play with that on the next video. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I've been buying different things to mix. But what do you think? Definitely give me some ideas, because we have quite a bit of the paint left. So I'd like to hear some feedback on that and see what we could probably use it for next. And of course, you guys have a good one, and I am out until next time.